This is Julia James Davis, and welcome to The War on Beauty. We need beauty standards. And I know that just triggered half of you, but just hear me out because it's actually more important than you think that it is. For decades, modern society has been dismantling the idea of having beauty standards, insisting that beauty is subjective. It lies purely in the eye of the beholder. But look around. When we threw out beauty standards, did we get a more beautiful world, a more fair world, a more equitable world full of justice? Walk through any modern city center and you can see that that is not the truth. By eschewing beauty standards, everything has just gotten ugly. Everything has sunk into the lowest common denominator. Compare even the most simple buildings. For example, last week I saw a stunning public high school that was built in El Paso in the early 20th century, and it literally took my breath away. It was stunning. I couldn't believe my eyes. Versus a contemporary box school that literally looks like a prison. Or look at classical paintings versus modern art that is just white paint on a canvas, or something deliberately ugly as a challenge to the establishment or something. And just to be clear, when I talk about beauty standards, I'm not talking about whether someone has blonde, long hair, or brunette hair, or looks a certain way. I'm actually not talking about physical appearance at all. People are all beautiful. We're all made in God's image and likeness. But what I'm talking about when I say beauty, true beauty, I'm talking about beauty in the objective sense, beauty as a transcendental. Real beauty reflects God's eternal nature. Just think about when you stand in front of a beautiful work of art or sculpture. Something inside you moves. It feels pointed up and lifted upward. And that is not a coincidence. Truly beautiful art points us to the ultimate beauty, which is God, and also is synonymous with truth and goodness. These are objective realities that human beings across cultures and across civilizations and time periods have all recognized to be true. But who decides what is beautiful, you might ask? Because I hear a lot of conversations these days about people saying, oh, well, it's this white Eurocentric standard of beauty that's ruined everything. But there actually was remarkable consistency across cultures about what elevated the human spirit versus what degraded it, about what was beautiful and what was not. The Greeks, the Renaissance masters, the Byzantines, the Chinese, they all understood something that our contemporary society has forgotten, which is that beauty is universal. It's universally understood because it's just rooted in these principles of integrity, proportion, and clarity, according to St. Thomas Aquinas. And ultimately, it is a transcendent thing that is reflective of God, of the eternal. In the recent past, this started to change. The idea that everything is beautiful sounds inclusive and great, but it actually erases the distinction between good and bad, and between truth and lies. So removing beauty standards didn't just make things neutral. It didn't just take away beauty, which the absence of beauty isn't necessarily ugliness. Instead, it did the inverse. It created a cult of ugliness. Modern architecture and art and culture really celebrates the disturbing, the broken, and the deliberately offensive. This isn't just the absence of beauty, rather it's beauty's direct opposite. Ugliness reflects lies and evil, just as beauty reflects truth and goodness. So by destroying beauty standards, we have not created fairness. We have cut ourselves off from the clearest path, one of the clearest paths of recognizing truth itself. And this all matters on the collective level, and it matters for you personally. Because when you surround yourself with ugly things, all of that affects our soul. And when you are conversely surrounded by beautiful things, We're being trained to recognize and desire what is true and good. It lifts you up in so many ways. I was actually watching recently this documentary that I've started to mention a few times in some of my videos because I'm a major fan of it, and I watched it already 2 times. But I wrote this note from watching Roger Scruton's Why Beauty Matters, and I reference that documentary all the time, but this is what he said. Standards of beauty have a firm base in human nature, and we need to look for them and build them into our lives. So it's really starting, as always, these big problems just start with ourselves, because there's no way that we can go out there and start, rebuilding the schools. It'd be great if we did, or rebuilding all of the box architecture or the ugly art. There's nothing that we can necessarily do about that, but rather just starting small with ourselves, which is choosing beauty in our daily lives, in the things that we can control. And learning to really distinguish and see what lifts your spirit up to God versus what drags it down. And so in conclusion, it kind of goes beyond the fact that yes, we need to reestablish beauty standards. It's going beyond that and asking whether or not we want to live in a world that can still recognize the difference between light and dark, truth and lies, and goodness or badness, and whether we want our souls to be shaped by beauty or the opposite. I am a huge advocate for bringing back beauty standards, objective beauty standards, and you know what? That would not exclude or make anybody feel bad. On the contrary, everybody would recognize it, everybody would love it and say, yes, this is beautiful. I hope that you'll please like, comment, and subscribe. What do you think about this? And if you're interested, The War on Beauty, this channel talks about beauty and the importance of it, not just aesthetically, but spiritually and religiously. So I hope that you'll please follow along if that sounds interesting to you, and I will see you in the next video.